Hey everyone, welcome. It's Mary Fane Brant with a LinkedIn Bakery serving up bite-sized tips so you don't get overwhelmed. I'm super excited for this show tonight. I have Shawn Q of the Christian Entrepreneur Academy visiting us tonight. Going to be dropping some golden nuggets. So before we get started, I want to know where you're watching from, what type of business you're in, and you know what? How do you take your coffee? Because that's important to me. I want to know who my coffee drinkers are in here. So let's get this party started. Shawn, thank you so much for coming on my Facebook live show, Bite Size Tips for Busy Entrepreneurs. You've never been a busy entrepreneur, have you?
I have. And just to say, I drink my coffee totally black. No sugar, no cream. Give me black coffee, make it the strongest you can, and let's make things happen.
I wish I could do that. I drink mine with almond milk now. It used to be like with like the half and half and the creamer, but now it's like almond milk and still a little sugar-free syrup in it. But you know what coffee I can drink black is Turkish coffee.
Oh,
it's called a slow pour, and they pour it by hand. Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh. It is the best thing ever. I love it. So I'm going to get started here, folks. I want to share, Shawn, how you and I met, because I think it's a pretty funny story and kind of sets the scene here. So I didn't just, meet Shawn, on LinkedIn once or something and then say, hey, come be on my show. You have to nurture your relationships, right, Shawn?
Absolutely. 100%.
So some of you know that I volunteer for Social Media Marketing World, and it was 2016. I was volunteering, and I was chosen to be on the networking team. I don't know why, because I'm so shy, and I don't like talking to people. Ha ha. And I was walking around, and there's this gentleman sitting at this table all by himself, and they said, if you see anyone sitting by themselves, make sure that you go over and talk to them and see if you can help them. So I went up to the table. I was like, hi, how you doing? Do you need anything? Are you looking for someone? Did you know that this is the faith-based table? And he just turned around and said, oh yeah, I'm just waiting for some people. And we just kind of had this very casual conversation. And what I remember from that, Shawn, is that you asked all about me. You asked me how I got connected, what type of business I had. And then some people started showing up and I walked away. And then I found out hours later, even the next day, who you were. And what I mean by that, you were already plugged into Social Media Marketing World. You work with them. I don't know what your exact role was, but it was... I know that you do you help with the show at the end, because I see you every year. So I was just cracking up. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's Shawn Q. Everybody knows who Shawn Q is. He's walking around with a mic, the next day and stuff. And so I just wanted to encourage people. Let's start with that. Let's encourage everyone to go up and say hi to someone. Whether they know them or not, you just never know where it's going to lead. And this has led to seeing you this year at Social Media Marketing World and getting invited to that dinner that you had. And that was fabulous. Yeah, Rebecca was there.
It was so good to have you and Rebecca, and you had a friend that came.
Yes.
We had this dinner. It was a fantastic dinner at this beautiful Italian restaurant. And the food was way delicious. Probably ate way too much food.
The conversation
was so good.
Yeah, the conversation was amazing. And so, moving forward, we're connected on LinkedIn and Facebook. I've been following Shawn since I met him last year. And fast forward, I was like, May is Mastermind and Coaching Month. Every month I have a theme for my Facebook live shows and for the content that I push out. And I thought, who's a coach that's really engaging, that I think is dynamic and just, I love that you're a faith-based coach. I'm faith-based. And I just love your energy because you're fun too. And so I thought, let me just reach out. So I want to encourage people out there. If you're afraid to reach out to someone, I want to tell you, don't be afraid. Just ask. I always tell other people this, and I need to practice it. The worst case scenario is they say no. That's it. So thank you, Shawn, for taking the time and coming on my show. I'd love for you, we have a bunch of people on. Let me see. We have about 8 people on, I think, right now. Everyone's saying hello. I'll let you go in and read the comments later. Why don't you tell us your background and your journey to being this entrepreneur and coach?
Yeah, so I had a 9 to 5 job. I was working in a mega church, actually, one of the largest churches in the U.S.
What church was
And
that?
it's The Rock.
We're giggling
And
because that's my church too.
so I had worked there for about 8 years, and in church culture, working in church, working in full-time ministry is almost like the golden calf of Christianity. Like, wow, you work at a church, you must be super spiritual, exactly where God wants you. And there was this little voice that I fully believe was the Holy Spirit that was kind of nudging me and speaking to me and telling me, you're not where you're supposed to be. And I was like, what? I'm not where I'm supposed to. I'm in church like every single day doing the work of the ministry, praying over people, preaching, leading ministries like the homeless ministry and like doing some
Right.
deep work. And God was saying, that's great, but it's not where I want you to be right now. And so I was like, okay, God, he's told me start a business. I said, I'm going to start a business. So I started a business, totally flopped. Didn't know anything about what I was doing, lost some friends in the process.
Oh.
I really recognized who I was and who I wasn't. And so I recognized that I needed to learn something about business. So I went to Google and I Googled a local conference.
Wait, you went, okay, I thought you were going to say you learned everything you know about business on Google because in our household, if you don't know something, and I mean my husband, right? So when my husband asks a question, I'm like, well, just Google it. That is literally my answer. And so I just had to interject there. That's what I say. Just Google it. You'll find the answer. So
That's
you,
awesome.
so you Googled
Well, so what I
conferences?
Googled was local business conference, and I found one about 8 to 9 hours away. But I was like, you know what, this sounds perfect. It was called the Lean Startup Conference, and it was like, it sounded like their copy was written so well, like it spoke to me. So like, okay, I'm gonna go buy a ticket. Clicked on the ticket price, and it was $3,500 for the low dollar ticket.
What?
So I was like, there's no way I could do that, but I need to be at this conference. So I
Mm-hmm.
scoured their website, and on like their privacy or terms of service page, I found an email. And so I emailed them and I said, I can't afford it, but I want to be there. Is there any way that I can volunteer? I can like shake hands at the door. I can
Woohoo!
help with registration. I can like there, if you need tables moved, I can do it. So they emailed me back and they said, absolutely. You want to volunteer? Come on down, show up on the first day and we'll get you started. I said, cool. I emailed them back and I said, hey, my my experience at my 9 to 5 is with like media and production and tech, so I'd probably be best used there. But if you need me to move tables and chairs, I'll do whatever you need to do. And the reason why I did that was because I knew that if I was just around those types of people, around those types of conversations, I would get something. I would overhear something that would change my perspective or give insight to the decisions I was making about the business I had at that time. And so they said, no, it's okay, but we do need some tables moved. So I went down, me and my dad and my youngest sister, we drove down 8 hours. There was a storm. We stayed in like a motel that was like a
Uh,
pretty bad motel. And I went. The day before the show was about to start, their stage manager got sick. And they said, hey, you
oh.
mentioned something about like having this type of background. Do you think you could do it? So I did
The
it.
day
And
before?
the day
Literally, the
before,
day before. So you don't have like the script. You're not like trained like, okay, this is the agenda. Here's what's
yeah, I have
going on.
nothing.
The day
Literally nothing.
before. You don't even know these people.
Yeah, they texted me at like 2 in the morning
What?
because their stage manager was throwing up in his hotel room. And so they said, can you do it? I said, yes. Went in, totally wowed them. I mean, I had been doing it for 8 years, so it wasn't that difficult of a job for me. And so they called me back about a week after the event and they said, you are a rock star. We need to hire you. So they hired me, paid me a couple $1,000, flew me out,
Okay, let's
got me
stop
to the
right there
hotel.
because I want to interject that because I'm a huge volunteer geek. I really am. I love volunteering and I always tell my career clients, go volunteer where you think you might want to be, where you think you might want to work because it could turn into a job. And I just want to interject there because you just said it did. You volunteered at a conference that was a $3,500 ticket that you couldn't afford. You asked to just do anything, move tables, and yet you got to wow them with your rock star media status and stage presence, or, handling the stage, and they wanted to hire you. That's fabulous.
Yeah, so they hired me, paid me a couple $1,000s. I mean, it was the most, I mean, at that time I was barely making over minimum wage. So it was like, oh my gosh, this is like a dream come true. So now I'm I'm backstage at this amazing event with amazing entrepreneurs who are focused on startups and how to really build a business from the ground up in the most lean, methodologically, sound way. And I was being paid to be backstage instead of instead of having to pay for some type of access. So it was just a really great thing. Word got around. I started emailing to other conferences because I thought, hey, if I could do it for them, I could do it for anyone else. And just through cold email, I landed like 4 other conferences. And I really began to realize God had prepared me over those 8 years of working in full-time ministry to be able to so easily transition. God created a moment where I could so easily step in and help these conferences really have a rock star show. And so I was able to meet some amazing people. Like I obviously got contracted and now work with social media marketing world. I've worked with traffic and conversion, content and commerce. I've worked with so many different other events, and I've had the ability to work with Pat Flynn and Michael Hyatt and just some of these big, huge names. So,
and it all started with a volunteer gig. It all started with you, like, I want to go to this conference. I can't afford that ticket. And you researched, like, you didn't give up. That's because you're like down at the bottom. Because sometimes on websites you can't find that contact, right? How to contact someone, but you didn't give up. You're like, okay, I'm going to get to this conference one way or the other. And you volunteered, and look, and you're right. God was preparing you. I love that. God was preparing you, and He does that a lot, and we don't realize it, and we're like, right? We're like, I don't want to turn left. I want to go straight. God's like, no, you're going to turn left because you're going to do a full loop. So amazing. Okay.
So I'm getting paid to be, around all these amazing, impactful influencers and staying in these amazing suites and like almost being treated like royalty is what I felt. And I remember God speaking to me again, and He said, this is still not where I want you to be. And I said, Lord, I quit my 9-to-5. I'm now doing these amazing things. I'm working with amazing people, and you're telling me I'm still not there. Like, is this bait and switch, or what's going on? You changing your mind? Am I not like, what's going on? And He said, I haven't called you to be in the spotlight. I've called you to be the spotlight, to shine the light into the darkness and create impact where there is no hope, to create impact where there is no chance of survival for some, to allow yourself to be an empowering tool for others who are stuck in the mud, and stop making it about yourself and start making it about others. Really focus on my people. And so that's why I created the Christian Entrepreneur Academy. And that's where we begin to empower people who are sitting in the pews, who have great vision and great passion and great ambition, who God has spoken to them and they said, yes, send me into the marketplace. And they just don't know what next steps to take. And so we do that through the Academy. And that's how I kind of got started. I started my digital marketing agency because somebody spoke to me backstage and said, listen, Shawn, I see you're starting to really develop some of these skills. If you can begin to package it and sell it, you have job security for the next forever, because everybody always needs marketing and sales skills. And so I did that, and then God really spoke to me and said, I want you to really begin to delve into coaching, and not so much the implementation, but the empowerment. And so I said, okay, God, and began to really develop this coaching and really lean into something that I already was naturally gifted in, and began to find mastery in it. And so that's what I do now. I have a full digital marketing agency as well as a coaching practice.
Okay. So from first business flopping to 2 businesses being successful.
Yes. Yeah.
That's fabulous. Yeah. So we have a lot of people, a lot of comments on here. So people are saying hi, some people you might know. So after the show, everyone, Shawn and I will go back in and we'll comment and we'll answer any questions that you have. But if you have a specific question, please go ahead and drop it in the comments, and we'll see if Shawn can answer that depending on how much time we have. So Shawn, so we know your background, which I love that story. I hadn't heard that story before. My heart is filled right now just hearing that story. So we have 3 tips, or you have 3 tips that you're going to share with the audience tonight. Do you want to start with tip number 1, which you just gave me a lesson in? Before we jumped on, folks, I got the 3-minute version of what a coach is. What a coach is and what a consultant is. And what did I tell you? I am not a coach. I'm a consultant.
Yeah. So I actually want to kind of step back and slow down a little, because we can definitely get into those perspectives and those principles. But in my story, there were a couple of truths that I want to share with people. I wasn't always in a position where I had wealth, where I had influence, where I felt really good about who I was. I grew up in an incredibly abusive childhood. I still have the scars on my wrist to prove I didn't think life was worth living. And I was bullied in high school and middle school, and not just called names, although I was called incredible names that were incredibly hurtful, but physically abused. And I didn't think that life was worth living. So it hasn't always been this shiny, fun, energetic, super smiley individual who always says the word excited, because I'm always excited. Even though that's the case now, it hasn't always been that way. But I've discovered that when you find your purpose and when you find a mission and when you can really grab onto that mission and obsess over it and say, okay, God, I'm going to go all in, and I'm choosing not to hold anything back, but I'm going to play full in and not give the enemy, in what my perspective is, the enemy's plan, not give him any leeway or any leverage in my life, but I'm gonna fully be faithful and obedient to the call in the anointing and the favor you've put in my life. It was at that point that everything began to shift, not change, but my perspective of things began to shift. And where I began to ask, why me? Why did I have to struggle with that? Why did I have to go through that? I began to ask myself, why not me? Why can't I be an inspiration of hope to people who are going through that now? Why can't I tell people, hey, I've been there and I've found a way out, let's go? And why can't I lock arms with people who are struggling and be able to say, we're in this together and there's nothing that's going to stop me from changing your life? So even though, I'm not sure who's listening, but even though you may be in a position where just things aren't working for you, or you're in a position where you have incredible success, there's always so much more on the other side of saying, God, what's my mission? And why am I here?
You got a couple amens in the comments.
Oh, good.
I just want to share those. Hashtag amen. And some hellos. So, yeah. Your message is being well received.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. So we can definitely go into coaching and consulting. And this, I think, is a really good segue into what coaching is and what consulting is. Consulting is when you are hired because there's a problem and you're hired to be the solution. You're hired to go in, to analyze what's wrong, to go back to your den or to your meeting or to your staff and say, okay, here's the problem. How can we put together a strategy that they can implement and find themselves out of this? Then you show up back to the client and you say, all right, here's the plan. This is how you get out. And then they begin to implement that plan. That's a consultant. You're the expert. You're the hero that arrives and saves the day. As a coach, it's completely different. You're not the expert. You're not supposed to be. Most coaches are calling themselves coaches when they're actually consultants. So they're actually doing themselves a disservice because consultants and coaches are viewed in different perspectives and they solve different problems. As a coach, my job isn't to be your expert or to be your savior or to be your superhero. My job is to remind you that you're the superhero, to remind you that you're the expert, and to help guide you through the problem that you think you have. Because I don't think you have problems. I think we're all playing a game, and we're just unclear about the rules and how we can win the game. And so my job is simply to remind you how powerful you are, how amazing you are, and it's not just encouragement, but sometimes it's challenging you to say, you're not playing all in, and I'm not going to talk to the Mary that's playing at a half level. I'm only going to speak to the Mary that's all in, who agrees to be completely invested and completely committed. And if that Mary doesn't show up, then I'm not going to coach, because that's the only Mary I want to coach. I'm not here to fix you. You don't need fixing. You're complete. You're whole. Now it's a matter of maximizing and leveraging how God has created you and the skills that he's given you to steward well. So it's really about service in a different perspective and a different light. For a coach, service is not a tactic or a strategy to get people to work with you. And a lot of people think, like, if I start pretending like I care or acting like I care, they'll hire me. People will begin to hire me. And it's not about selling. It's not about flattery. I don't flatter my clients. They don't need flattery. I don't people please. So sometimes I'll tell a coach or a client, or anybody really, because I coach entrepreneurs, I coach high level, C-level, executives. I coach high achieving entrepreneurs. I coach a wide variety of different people. And so I don't people please with them. I tell them things that nobody else is willing to tell them. And I ask them questions deeper than anyone else has been willing to ask them. And we really dive in so that it's not just the shallow play of, okay, what are some of your goals? Let's like life coach you. It's a matter of really discovering, why are you here? And are you showing up fully? And if you're not, why not? And what's stopping you from playing all out? And what would that look like if you were just 3% more productive? And how would that change your entire day? And how can we get you to that point? Because I don't think it's a matter of these massive shifts, but these small shifts that may not feel like much, but over the long haul really end up being a really drastic change in trajectory.
Yeah, I always think it's the little things in life that make the biggest difference.
Mm.
I don't know, but I always feel like it's the little things that really can make or break your day. It's the little things that can help you be more productive. It's the little things that you do or don't do that can help you focus more. So I totally agree with making the little shifts. It's not climbing over the mountain in one day. It's deciding that you want to climb over the mountain and then preparing to climb over the mountain and then taking the first 500 steps, you know?
Yeah, and it's even a matter of discovering whether or not this mountain is one you want to climb. The Bible talks about moving mountains, and I don't fully believe that he's only talking about literally moving the mountain as much as he's talking about moving us. Because if we turn around and the mountain's in front of us and we turn around, the mountain's now behind us. So we've, by our perspective, shifted where the mountain is. We've moved ourselves and therefore moved the mountain. And sometimes there's a mountain and God's saying, I haven't called you to climb the mountain. I've called you to go that way where there is no mountain. I've called you to go where you're naturally strong and hire out where you're weak or delegate out what's not working.
Oh, amen to that.
Hire someone else. So sometimes it's a matter of discovering, is this really a mountain or are you just trying to climb the wrong thing and going the wrong way? To define what service truly is, it's a place to come from, not a place to go to. I come into my coaching sessions to serve, and I come from a place of service. So I'm not trying to sell anyone when I'm coaching them. Selling will come naturally if I coach powerfully enough, and if the coaching session is extraordinary enough. And we'll talk a little bit more about what that looks like. It's born from a deep connection and love. And it's not a matter of me trying to tease you so you like get this tiny, tiny, tiny fraction of an experience and then, okay, I want more. But it's a matter of me serving you almost as if you were already a $10,000 client and then saying, do you want more? Because I believe you are already a $10,000 client. Let's make it happen. What do you have to do to make it happen? It's not so much about making a difference, or even it's not so much about making a friend, it's about making a difference. It's not about making income, it's about creating impact, because I believe income is a result of impact. I also believe that it's not even a matter of me showing up confidently. Sometimes I'll be fully transparent with my clients and say, hey, I'm really nervous right now. What are you feeling? Like, let's bring into awareness what we're feeling. I'm kind of scared about this coaching call because I feel like I'm a little insecure. How are you feeling? And what happens in those moments is it almost gives them permission to be real as well. I fully believe that the most relatable you can become is when you're most broken. When I say, I'm not perfect, but I still sometimes sit in bed and think, what am I doing? Am I worthy enough? Is this going to all collapse one day? When I'm able to say, I'm in no way, shape, or form have made it, I'm still figuring it all out. But let's figure it out together. It's in those moments that I become less stage Shawn and more person, human, one-to-one Shawn, which gives you permission to be one-on-one Mary and say, hey, I'm not perfect either. I still have challenges, still have fears when it comes to sales. And then we get to work on it, which is absolutely where the miracles and the magic happen. So it's a matter of really being vulnerable and really being transparent.
So I'm going to ask you a question. So everybody out there that's listening to Shawn and the coaching experience that he puts you through. So if you're afraid of sales, if you have a fear of sales, I just want you to raise your hand. I'm going to be the first because I don't like selling because I don't want to be that salesy person. So I'm really relating to what you're saying. So if you don't like sales or you don't like to sell, if you feel it's dirty or it's just wrong, I just would love for you to put your hand up in the comments. Give us a thumbs up. Okay, Shawn.
Awesome. Yeah. And I'm super curious to see, so please let me know if people are thumbing up or saying me or
Kimberly
like, hands
Shutter
up.
says me, so she's
Oh, great.
watching.
Okay,
She's a
cool.
CWIN member.
Oh, awesome. Super cool. Glad to meet another C1 member. Rebecca's awesome. Super shout out to Rebecca.
Yay.
All right. So in selling in and of itself can be really, really scary because you don't want to feel sleazy. You don't want to feel like you're making it about the money, especially if you're coming from a faith background. You just feel icky and weird about, okay, now let's talk about the money. And it becomes a weird, like you serve and then it becomes a weird transition and like, okay, can you maybe do, and then you super cut your prices at the last minute because you're afraid to say the high price. And so
you're
like,
getting
okay,
like all kinds of thumbs up and high fives and they don't want to sell. So everybody is really relating to this topic. So I just wanted you to know.
Good. So, but at some point you do have to talk about the money. Because I fully believe as believers, specifically called to go into the marketplace, that we have been anointed to produce wealth. Deuteronomy 8:18 is incredibly clear. Remember the Lord your God, for it is He who gives you the ability to produce wealth. He gives us the power and the permission to make a lot of money. He talks about in Ecclesiastes that wealth is for a blessed man. He talks about Abraham being blessed with cattle from 1,000 hills. He talks about Joseph of Arimathea, which is my hero, outside of Jesus, obviously. He's my hero in the Bible. And the reason why was when Jesus was crucified, ritually, his body would be given to the Pharisees. And if you know the story, the Pharisees hated Jesus. They would have probably tore him limb from limb and throw him in a pile. But Joseph of Arimathea had influence. He had sway with the political government. He went to Caesar.
Right.
And he was able to say, I have a tomb, which only the incredibly wealthy had personal tombs, and say, I'll give up my tomb for Christ. So this was a person of incredible prosperity, of incredible wealth, who had purpose. And I want to make it very clear that it's not so much a prosperity, like buy the holy water and pour it on your finances and you're going to make $1 million. And like, that's just weird. But it is about knowing your purpose in that profit. Because I know so many people listening, they want to build the homeless shelter. They want to rescue individuals from sex slavery and human trafficking. And they want to build the schools. They want to dig the wells. And all of that takes money. It takes resource. Yeah. We find our freedom in Christ, but we find our opportunity in the finances that God gives us, the resources God gives us. And so at some point, you have to make it about the money. And you have to be able to leverage the price that you're saying in a way that both serves you and serves them. So sometimes what I'll do is I'll say a really high price simply because I know the person in front of me is scared of that price. And I'm leading in the conversation in the sales process. So I'll say it's going to cost $10,000 in order to work with me. You pay all up front, and once I receive the check, we can begin to, we'll have our very first session. And in those moments, I know they're like, oh my gosh, $10,000, that's insane, you're crazy. But at this point, what I want to do is I want to be able to say, I only want to work with the Mary who can make that, who can go out and create that, who can create $10,000 worth of impact and want coaching so badly that they're willing to get out of their comfort zone and do what it takes to make it happen. And most people have the money, they're just spending it all wrong. So now it's a matter of them prioritizing,
investing in themselves.
And
I'm a huge fan of coaching and investing in yourself, and every time I've done it, it's paid off. Even when I first started and maybe I had a coach that wasn't the best fit for me, I still learned from that person. And I tell everyone, like, coaching, even coaches have coaches. All great coaches have coaches. And I think it just helps with our personal growth. No matter what level you are in your business, whether you're starting off mid-level or maybe you've had a successful business for 10, 15 years, there's never a bad time for coaching and personal growth, right? Mm-hmm.
So before I go into the sales, because I just threw out like $10,000, I started talking sales. I want to make sure that I communicate to your audience the right process, because it's not about sales, it's about service. Okay. And so I never get on a sales call. I only ever get on a service call. And
what does that look like?
So most coaches do 15-minute, 30-minute teaser calls. I hate that. Absolutely. 100%. If you're going to do deep, intensive coaching, you need to know whether or not it's going to be a good fit for you. And if it is a good fit, then you can ask the right price and they're willing to pay. If it's not a good fit, 15 minutes isn't enough to discover that, right? You're going to accept a client and that person might be a bad client. And I'll tell you the biggest truth when it comes to sales, a bad client will cost you more than no client.
I've had those. I'm sorry. I'm like, I've had those bad clients. I'm like, I need to fire the client. Like, I learned my lesson when I was struggling. Like, I took some clients that I just knew were not the right clients for me. And I will never, I told my husband after we were done, when I was done, I was like, I won't do that again. I will never, ever take the wrong client on because it's not good for them or me, right? It's not good for anyone.
Absolutely. They don't get the results they're looking for. And then you're either giving refunds and you've probably already spent the money or you've already placed it somewhere. You've already given it an assignment.
You just get anxiety when you have a phone call or you get an email from that client. I'm like, leave me alone.
That's why I'll never spend 15 or 30 minutes because I and no one can really discover whether or not this is a perfect ideal client. Heck yes clients, because I only take heck yes. If you're a maybe or if you're like, I'm unsure but I'm going to try this, I don't want you as a client.
So let me ask, I want to ask you, have you, because you only do like the 2-hour talks for potential clients. So have you ever had a 2-hour consultation and that person walked away saying, nope, not for me right now? And if so, how does that make you feel?
So I have had 2-hour conversations, several 2-hour coaching conversations where I feel they're not a good client, but I'll still serve them in those 2 hours, and where they feel like this isn't working for me. And at that point, I'm relieved because I've served them incredibly and I've gotten away from a no. I believe heck yes lives in the land of no's. So the more no's I can get, the closer I am to a yes. And it becomes a number game, right? So right now in the academy, we're actually playing something called the 7-day money game, where I'm forcing people to answer 3 questions every single day. The first question is, how many conversations do you have tomorrow, set up for tomorrow? How many conversations do you have set up for today? Did you have today? And then the third one is, how much proposal money did you ask for? So how much money did you ask for in proposals? Because it's all about proposals. I guarantee you, if people have 50 conversations, 50 coaching calls set up for tomorrow, so they have 100 calls, let's say over the next week, somebody's going to become a client.
Right.
A lot of them are going to say no, but a lot of them are going to say yes.
It is a
and it's in those heck yes coaching clients that pay the high dollars. So to go back to like the 2 hours, I only ever coach someone for 2 hours. I will never get on a call with someone if I've set up the call with them for less than 2 hours, 2-hour minimum. And the reason why is I want to go deeper than they've ever gone before. So I'll start off our conversations and I'll ask them. I'll first set up our conversation. So I'll say, you and I have 2 hours set aside. I'm not on my phone. My phone's on the other side of the room. I'm not on Facebook. We're on Zoom, and I'm fully attentive to you. And here's the principle. Attention is rare. So the more attention you can give someone and the more time you can spend with someone, the more they're going to need you. The more they're going to want more of you because nobody else is listening to them. Nobody else understands them. And as a coach, I need to be able to really, truly listen and truly understand. So I spend that 2 hours. I set it up. I have 2 hours set aside. I'm focused completely on you. I'm not like holding the baby and on the phone. I'm not doing all of that. Focused on you. Number 2, here's what I expect from you. I expect that you go all in, that you're fully transparent, that you tell me things that you would never tell anyone else, that we play a very powerful game today, and that my goal is for you to leave this conversation with your head up high, your shoulders back, with a vulnerability hangover. Brene Brown calls it a vulnerability hangover, where you were so vulnerable and so real and so raw that at the end of our call, you look back at it and you say, oh my God, did we really talk about that? Did I really share that with him? And I'll tell you, I have had 80-year-old men and women tell me, I'm telling you things I've never told my husband or wife. My family doesn't even know this about me. I've had people say, I've never shared this with anyone, and I've actually been too afraid to admit it to myself.
Wow.
That's where deep, powerful coaching comes in. Because now we're revealing things that really was birthed on the inside but never was watered and never was paid attention to and never was given a safe space to even become aware of itself. And so I want to serve them so powerfully. So I want to set up the call incredibly well. I also want to inform them I play a very high intensive game. I only do intensive coaching. I don't do the shallow, like, what are your goals? Let's write them down. Okay, how are you going to get to them? Like, we're going to go all in. So I'm going to be very vulnerable as well. I'm going to be very honest. I'm going to bring everything. I'm not going to hold anything back. Is that okay? And I probably asked that question 20 times. Is that okay? And the reason why is if they are giving me permission, then we're walking together. And I never coach without permission. So they're the ones opening the door, and they're saying, yes, let's go. And it's not me being the savior or the hero. It's them becoming the hero and the savior in their own position. And so set it up. And then what I do is after we set up, I ask one question. What can we talk about today that would serve you extraordinarily? That if 3 years from now you came back to me, we bumped into each other in the mall or at Disneyland, and you said, oh, Shawn, I'm so glad we had that call 3 years ago because I'm still feeling the impact of that call. What would we talk about today? And I force them to say something, and I'm totally quiet. And as a coach, silence is so key. It's so key because oftentimes so many people feel like they need to fill in the void. But when you're silent, you allow truth to really smack them in the face. So I sit in silence and I wait. And they reveal something. And then I say something else. And these are my favorite 2 words. My favorite 2 words. What else?
Oh.
So you said you wanted to work. So most people say, oh, I'm really having trouble, getting clients. So I'll write it down. What else do you want to talk about today? And they're like, oh, I was only thinking about that. Well, let's think about it. Well, I'm really having trouble. I really don't understand this whole business thing. Like, how do I get a client or how do I get on it? Okay, so there's clarity issues. What else? And I ask what else about 10 times. Most people, I want to, they'll hear the answer. I want to create clients. Okay, let's get into it. All right, this is what I do. This is how you do it. I don't want to serve you on that shallow level. We're going to go deep. So what else? Because I want to get everything out of the way. Because when we can get all the things that are up front in your brain, we can get everything else that's in the back of your brain. And that's where the true miracles happen again. So what else? Great. And then what I do is I give them permission to be the answer, to be the solution. So let's go to client creation. What would a powerful coach tell you right now that would help you solve this problem?
Are you asking me, or you're like, this is what you say? You're so intense. I'm like, oh my gosh.
And what that happened, you just proved it. Like, you became attentive. Like, oh, I'm responsible for my results, right? Mm-hmm. Sorry, I have to sneeze.
It's okay. Bless you.
Okay, it's gone.
It's okay.
So now I begin to give you permission to own your problem. So what are some of the solutions that a powerful coach would give you that you're expecting me? Like, what do you want from me? Why are we on this call? And most of the time, they have the answer. I just haven't made enough phone calls.
Right.
Somebody's going to keep me accountable to that. I'm not going to keep you accountable to that. You don't need accountability. You need to keep yourself accountable. You're the hero in this situation. So now I'm empowering and strengthening them. What kind of system do you need to put together to make this happen? Right, to be accountable to it. So we go down the list. We're usually going really deep. Sometimes I'll ask questions like, what is something that you're afraid to tell me right now? Or what is something that you don't want me to know? And I'll say, let me give you an example. I don't want you to know that sometimes I feel like an imposter. Like, I'm not in any way, shape, or form worthy of the role that I'm playing right now. Sometimes I look at myself and think, this is all going to go away. And I don't want you to know that. What about you? And now I'm giving them permission to be real and vulnerable. Right? So if I'm rushing in 15 minutes, it's not going to happen. Right? Like, I'm trying to be the solution. I'm trying to get you, like, this is the answer to your problem. Buy this thing. And in that moment, they're in affordability and not possibility.
So we had a question. Julia asked, do you have to choose from being a coach or a consultant? I thought that was a great question. So she's asking, do you have to choose being one or the other?
That's a powerful question. And sometimes because I have a digital marketing agency.
So you're more of a
I know the
consultant,
answer,
right? Yeah.
and I want to help them. It's in that moment that you have to decide, would it be more powerful for me to give them the answer or for them to discover the answer on their own as I guide them through it? And this is what happens on a neurological level. If I were to give them the answer, it goes down a path that's already been built through their synapse. So it's already been built. If they discover it because I've guided them to the answer, literally in that moment, a new synapses path is being built, and that's where the this is like there's that aha moment.
And then they have more it's their own accountability. So I was working with a career client, and for once I was asking lots of questions, and she's like, oh, I didn't think of that. Like, she was having her aha moments. And, when we're done with our coaching, she's like, she goes, I feel so much more confident. She's like, you're right. So we worked through her issues, why she didn't think she was qualified for a job. We went like line per line, tell me about this. Oh yeah, I've done that. Tell me about this. Well, I'm a little, like, we went line by line, and we just had that authentic conversation where I asked more questions. And she came up with red flags. She's looking for a company that has better culture. I'm like, well, what are the red flags? So I just asked her. And so she made it like a list herself. These are my red flags. So what are you going to do when you're in an interview and you hear this? She's like, that's on my red flag. Okay. That's, so she's coming up with her own process herself just by asking her questions. It's so powerful.
Now, both ways, being a consultant, being a coach, are good. In no way is coach better than consultant. In no way is consulting better than coaching.
Right.
They just serve different purposes, and you have to be able to distinguish in that moment, is this person going to be best served by me just giving them the answer so we can move on? Which sometimes I'll do. I'll ask permission. Can I just turn into a consultant? I know you're paying me to be a coach, but I feel like it'd really best serve you if I just give you the answer so that we can move to the next thing. Because it's obvious, or we need to move forward, or whatever the case is, right? So but it's in those moments, if they've hired me as a coach, I want to honor their investment and their commitment to me as a coach. And so I'll always ask for permission. Super key. Always ask for permission. And you can go back and forth, but I'd really be careful to really honor what they're invested in. So, let me check in. Are there any comments, or let me kind of check into what you're thinking, Mary, and what you're feeling.
I'm feeling that I'm really a LinkedIn consultant, right? We kind of have that. But with my career coaching, I think I'm a blend, but I'm thinking that maybe that's wrong, because I'm trying to ask more questions with the women that I work with, like, what they think their strengths are. Where do they think their weaknesses are? We've come up with this, what are your red flags? And she's like, yeah, that was a red flag at my last job. I should know that. But she's making those discoveries on her own without me telling her that. So I think I'm working on being a better coach in that arena. And then when I'm a LinkedIn strategist, it's like, strategy. Why are you on there? What are you using LinkedIn for? Okay, we need to fix A, B, C, D. We just go through the list. So that's definitely, I'm a consultant. I am not a coach. So that is great to understand the difference. We have another question. Julia just asked, who else in the group loves to ask questions? So she's just asking that. I think that's great.
Yeah.
I think asking questions is more powerful than anything, than trying to just spit it all out. All the answers.
Yeah. Does anyone who's listening to this, whether you're on the live stream or on the replay, is this resonating with you? Go ahead and let me know yes or no, and let me know if there's any gold nuggets. We'll give you a little bit of time to do that, and then we'll move forward. But I'm genuinely curious to see if there's anybody who has gold nuggets.
We've had like 29 comments in here, so there's a lot of comments for you to go back and kind of read afterwards. And yeah, anybody that is watching live or the replay, we really want this to serve you. So the whole reason for my Facebook live shows, for no other reason but to serve my community and bring powerful speakers, consultants, coaches that can just share their experiences and their knowledge with everyone. That's why I do these shows. So we have Kimberly said yes. Julia Rhodes said, oh, yeah.
That's awesome.
Oh, yeah. I like that. High five, girl.
Cool.
So, yeah. So if you're watching the replay, we still want you to go in and leave a comment. And we want you to ask questions because Shawn and I will be going back in and engaging with you and answering your questions and commenting on your posts. So please go in and just type replay and then ask your questions. Or let's see, Kimberly said gold nugget is the distinction between coaching and consulting. Awesome.
So we've gone through a couple of different things. We've gone through what coaching and consulting is, what coaching really is, and how you can go deep into it. We've talked about the power of 2-hour coaching sessions instead of 15-minute sessions, and really setting them up. Mm-hmm. Really setting up the tone and creating this atmosphere where they're expecting something powerfully. Nobody else is willing to give that much time to someone who hasn't even paid. People are like, nope, I have to move on to the next one. I have to move on. I have to scale. I hear that word all the time. But one thing you can never scale is the depth of your relationships. And I want to have deep relationships with every one of my clients. I want to be inspired by my clients. So in the 2 hours, I'm actually auditioning them. Do I want them to become a client? Because if I want them as a client, I'll create a client in this moment.
Your stage manager came back. You're auditioning them.
I am. I'm auditioning them. And that's incredibly important because most people are looking like, okay, who's just going to give me money? But I don't want the money. I want, who can I create deep, desperate impact in? And I'm auditioning to see if they inspire me, if their challenge is big enough for me. Sometimes I'll say, that's an easy thing, go Google it, right? Yeah. Like, let's, what else? What else can we work with today? My only mission every single day is to wake up and ask, who can I have such a powerful conversation with them so that they'd remember the conversation 3 years from now?
I love that.
Who can I have such a powerful conversation with today that they'd remember it 3 years from now?
I love that statement.
If I'm in conversation all day, even if I'm giving it away for 2 hours at a time, but I'm serving powerfully, almost every single person will pay anything, something, because they've truly been served in that moment. Yeah. So how do I transition then from service? I'm serving them incredibly. I'm asking powerful questions, and it's in really those questions where you're either allowing them to really discover what the root of the problem is, or helping them discover some of the solutions that they already own and they can really begin to lean into. And then, so how do I transition? I've served them incredibly. They're crying at times. They're saying, oh my gosh, I've never shared this with anyone. Like, I really want to own this. How do I go, okay, well, let's talk about money.
Here, sign the contract. You can have more of this.
Yeah. So there's one question that I usually like to ask, and it's, would you like to hear what it would look like if you and I did this more often? And at that point, they either give me permission. Yes, absolutely, I want more of this. Or, no, I think we can end right here. I think this is good. And either point, I'm okay with. Because if they're a no client, I don't want them anyways.
Right.
If they're a yes, then awesome. Let's keep moving forward. And I'll never pressure anyone. I'll always ask for permission. So it's the permission versus the pressure. That's a very good distinction.
Did you guys all get that? Permission versus pressure. Put that in your notes.
So is it okay if we talk about what it would look like if we had conversations just as powerful like this more often? Mm-hmm. Let's say they say yes. Awesome. I coach people who inspire me. And now we'll talk about the type of people I coach because I want to qualify them in this next stage. They want to talk about coaching. Most people go into, okay, well, I coach 3 times a month. It's going to be $500 or $200 or $100 and blah, blah, blah. They go straight into all of that stuff. And they don't even know if, this is going to be a good client. You want to slow it down incredibly. So let me tell you a little bit about the types of people I coach. I coach people who inspire me, who have such big vision that it requires them to play a long-term game. It's not something they can accomplish in 1 year. It's something they have to accomplish in 5 years. That it's such a big dream that they know they're going to need a full team to make it happen. I coach people who don't need coaching. They're not broken, but they want coaching. They crave it. I coach individuals who don't hire me for results. I don't promise results. I require you to create the results you want. So you're responsible for the results. I coach people who care about their results more than I do. I care deeply about my clients, but my clients care deeply about their own results. Because if I cared more about their results than they did, there's going to be a lot of weird tension. Like, why aren't you doing this? I'm so involved.
And they need to care more than you because their goals, their results, their life, their business.
And then I ask them, does this sound like you? Or does this sound like someone you'd like to become? And at that point, they can say, nope, not at all. I don't want, like, that's not me. Or they say, yes, that's me. Or, yes, I want to become that. Awesome. My first yes. Now, let me tell you a little bit. Let's have kind of a conversation because integrity is key. It's so important for me. So let me ask you, what does integrity in our coaching relationship look like? What does good communication look like? What would a powerful coach, how would a powerful coach serve you if you and I did this for, say, 6 months? And I asked them, and now they're telling me, well, integrity looks like I show up to meetings on time. They show up on meetings on time. They honor my time, shows up like this, right? They're telling me everything they want in a coach. And now I'm deciding, is that who I need to be? Like, is that who I want to be in their life? Over the next 6 months, year, 2 years? Is this who I not want to be over there? Right? So now we're qualifying each other. Great. Well, I'm excited because that sounds a lot like me. And I definitely want to be that to you. Is it okay if we keep going? Yes, let's keep going. Like, I want to hear more. Right? Great, I got my next yes. And it's about building and stacking your yeses.
I was just going to say, you're stacking the yeses. That's the exact word that just came to my mind. Stacking.
Now what I do is I say, I want to coach myself out of a job. So if you and I decide to become coach and coachee, I don't want you to be dependent on me. I want you to become the rock star. You're the rock star, not me, right? So I'll reiterate that like I did in the very beginning of the session. And I'll let them know, I want you to be able to do this without me. Right. Because that means that we've accomplished our goal. And so, is that okay? Yes, absolutely, that's okay. Great. My fourth or fifth yes, right?
How many yeses do you have to get? Like, how many questions do you ask? I'm just curious.
It really depends on the type of person in front of me. Yeah. The slower I go and the more yeses I get, the easier it is to talk about the money. Because we'll get to that. So I've qualified them, they've qualified me. What I'll then tell them is there are 5 words that I want you to write down. And those 5 words are this: vision, strategy, so I'll have them write this down, mindset, skill set, and restoration. Those are my 5 words. Coaches have their own 5 words. I'd suggest you, if you're going to coach, anybody else listening to this, discover your own 5 words. You can be some of those 5 words, right? You can use some of those words. You can create your own. And then I'll say, write those down. Great. Let me describe what those mean. Vision is knowing exactly where you're going and where God's calling you. Strategy is knowing exactly how to get there, the step-by-step process. Mindset is making sure that you have the right perspective so that when you do get there, you can celebrate fully. Skill set is making sure that you're not playing a mediocre game, you're playing a game of mastery. In restoration, we're going to dive deep. So we're going to talk about things that you haven't talked about in a long time, but are still holding you back. Things that you think you're free from, but you're really not. We're going to get restored from that completely and wholly. Write those 5 words down. They write them down. And then I ask them, circle the 1 or the 2 or the 3 or all of them that really resonate with you. Which one? So they'll circle 1. Sometimes they say strategy. Sometimes they say vision. Sometimes they say restoration, whatever the case is. Great. Why did that really resonate with you? And they'll tell me. And then I'll ask them, why do you really need to work on that? And they'll tell me, I really need to work on this because Like, I've been struggling for years and years and years, and I just need to get it over with. And now what's happening is they're selling themselves. They're telling themselves why they need to hire me.
Okay.
I need to overcome this because XYZ.
So again, you ask question. So what I'm getting from this is just keep asking the questions. You're not giving the information. You're asking the questions and having them answer, which is leading them down that path.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And it's coaching. Coaching is asking deep, powerful questions. So I'm actually not selling in this moment. I'm coaching them. I'm asking them, is this what you want or is this not what you want? And so what I'll also do is I'll let them know. Now, I know you might have to talk to your husband or wife about this, and I actually don't want to hear a yes tonight because I don't know. I haven't prayed about it, and I haven't even sat in silence about it and really discovered if I want you as a client. And you don't know that either. You need to sit in it. You need to really discover whether or not this session was that powerful. But what I want you to do is in your prayer time, when you're speaking with your husband and wife, I want you to show them these 5 words, and I want you to show them the one you circled, and I want you to tell them what you just told me. So now what I'm doing is that I'm empowering the person who's going to communicate to the decision maker or to the person who's helping with the decision, right? So instead of them saying, oh, I had this really cool conversation with this guy, it's, let me show you what he's going to help me with. Boom, 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 boom. Right. So then after that, I'll ask them, how are you feeling? Do you feel like we're in alignment? Like, do you want to be coached by me? I kind of want to coach you. And I'll be honest. I'll be genuine if I do. How are you feeling? Is there any objections, any red flags that are coming up? Are we rushing this? Should we slow down? Should I let go of this? And I'll let go of it a little bit, let go of the sale, because I want to know, okay, are they going to grab at it? Or are they going to, like, I feel this is iffy, right? I want to try and let go of the sale as much as possible because it's going to have them grab onto it as much as possible if they really want it. And that's where I want them. I want them fully committed, fully invested, even before we talk about the money. Like, I haven't even talked about the money at this point. I haven't talked about how many times we're going to have a conversation. Haven't talked about my packages. Like, I'm qualifying you and you're qualifying me. And so they'll say, you know what? Most of the time, they'll say this. I'm just nervous about the cost. When are we going to get to the money?
And you're like, yeah, I am too.
And I'll say, well, that's okay. It's okay to be nervous about the cost because deep, powerful coaching is going to be an investment.
Right.
This is going to change your life and it's going to be an investment. And so, but before we get to the money, I want you to know that there's other investments involved. It's going to take your time. It's going to take your energy. You're going to have things pop up in the time that we're coaching that are going to try and distract you or try to take place of our coaching calls. You have to make this a priority. You have to make this a have to do, not a get to do. Like, I have to get on that call today because I know it's going to change my life. And then number 2, energy. You're going to have to do things that are outside of your comfort zone, that are going to take a little extra energy that you haven't put into your business before.
Webinar. Webinar.
Right? So I'll then ask them, are you willing to invest that? Because the money, we'll talk about that. But if you're not willing to invest that, the money thing doesn't even matter. So are you willing to invest that? And they'll say, absolutely, yes, I can. Great, I got my next yes. So
that's 5 or 6.
5, 6, whatever.
I'm like, I'm kind of tallying them up. I'm like, yes. Okay.
So now the next thing is, great. It sounds like everything is in alignment. If we can get the money to align, do you want to become a heck yes client today? Right? Would you become a heck yes client today? Would you be willing to commit to it? And at that point, they say yes, absolutely. Awesome. So now I know they're not feeling pressured. I've gotten their permission. It feels like a natural transition. And I let them know there is a financial investment. Let me tell you why. And this is super important because I need them to know the integrity of my coaching. I coach from a place of deep service. In order for me to serve you incredibly, I need to know that you're going to show up powerfully.
Right.
And I'm not just going to show up powerfully, but you're committed. There's also been studies done that when people pay, they pay attention and they implement what's happening. So I need you to show up powerfully and to implement everything you commit to. The financial investment keeps us both honest and accountable to that. 10% of everything I make also goes to rescuing little boys and little girls from human trafficking and sex slavery.
Yay.
We partner with an organization in Romania, which is the hub of sex slavery. It's where everywhere around the world, from the US to the UK to Australia and New Zealand, like everyone takes kids from these countries, sends them to Romania because it's really easy to lose contact there, and then sells them on the black market for disgusting, despicable things. So by becoming a client of mine, you're helping me change the world. And part of your investment goes to that. And I share that because it's very key for them to know I'm in this to change lives. I'm not in this to make a lot of money. Making a lot of money helps me change lives. Like, that's going to come. And I want to make a lot of money because it allows me to change more.
You can bless other people with the money that you make.
So I communicate that. Is that okay? Like, are you on board with that? Yes. Another yes. Cool. Let me tell you about the financial investment. Let me tell you about the most extravagant, luxurious, life-changing, transformational way we can work together. This is the highest package that I have.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe you deserve this package. Not my low-end stuff, but my highest. Let's talk about that. Is that okay? Yes. Great. So now what I do is I talk to them about my $25,000 package.
Okay.
So it's going to cost $25,000. You can pay that in increments, or you can make a one-time payment. You and I are going to coach in person. You make your payment, I book my flight the day that you book it, or that you make your payment.
So you fly to the clients?
Mm-hmm. If they're paying me $25,000, right? I will fly to.
Okay.
And we'll do 2 full, complete days of coaching. Those will be the most powerful coaching that you have ever experienced in your entire life. And we're going to go so deep that by the end of it, you're going to need a break from coaching because it was so powerful. So what that also includes is every single week, you and I are going to have a powerful coaching session like this one. I'm going to play all in. I'm going to be very intensive in our coaching sessions. And I believe in long-term coaching because long-term results require long-term coaching. So it's going to be a full year of coaching. How does that sound?
That's a big commitment. Wow. That sounds good. I like where you're going with this. We have about like 3 minutes left on here. So I love how you're getting all the yeses. And then the very last thing, what I'm getting from this, is you're really getting them to get the buy-in on their own. Mm-hmm. You're not selling anything.
So to end and kind of share, most people will say, yes, heck yes, let's sign up, or they'll say no. And so if they say no, great, I still want to coach you. Do you want to coach? Like, can we figure out the money thing? And they'll say yes. Okay, great. So what if we cut that price in half and we cut the amount of coaching in half? Instead of 2 days, it's 1 day, full day, and then we coach every other week instead of every week. Cut your price in half. How does that sound? Great, awesome. Or no, too much. Okay, well, let's cut that even more. Right, so I'm offering less, and then I'm asking for less. So at some point, they're going to get on the bus, because we're going somewhere. They want to go. And it's either going to be front row VIP $25,000, or just a one more coaching call at $1,000, right? So now the reason why I start at my highest and work down instead of at my lowest and work up is it's easier to go down a hill than it is to walk up a hill. So I want them to value my service at that price. So even if they pay me for just one more session at $1,000 or $500 or whatever we work out, we get creative with, they think and they feel that they're getting $25,000 worth of value. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because that's what the VIP client would be paying, and you're still the same coach, right? Mm-hmm. So they're getting that VIP coach, just not getting as much of him.
Exactly. So I'm communicating my value to them.
Right.
Right up front.
Got it. Sounds fabulous. Well, Shawn.
Then we end,
Yeah.
and they say heck yes or heck no, and we keep going.
I love it. You have shared so many nuggets. The interaction on this Facebook Live was off the roof. There's a lot of people that had a lot of questions, so I really want to encourage you to go back in and interact with them. And we want to, everybody in the event that was created on Facebook, there is all of Shawn's information, so you can connect with him. You know what I'm going to tell you? Go to LinkedIn. Go over there right now and connect with this fabulous man, Shawn Q, and then go to Facebook and connect with him. So you guys know that LinkedIn's my jam. That's my platform. But seriously, get connected with him. Let's all support each other in this entrepreneur journey. I think Stephanie Liu just joined us, my rock star. Julia says, thank you so much. So everyone is still listening. And Shawn, if anybody wants to explore coaching with you, you don't just, do you only coach entrepreneurs? Is that the mainstream?
No, if you are somebody that I'm inspired by, I'll coach you. So if you have a big, massive dream, then let's work together.
Good. I just wanted to clarify that. So what's the best way for someone to reach out to you and to get
you
to
can
know
email me.
Okay.
So you can email me, Shawn@wealthyrou.org. I'll put that in the comment section, or you can join my free Facebook group, and it's Christian Entrepreneurs Building Your Business with Purpose.
I'm a member. Woohoo! I love that group, and I know there's actually a few of us in there that I know. I think Melody Stevens is in there. Rebecca, there's a few of us in there. So you guys, you know what? Go over to Shawn's Facebook group, join that, send him an email, check out his platforms, and if you want to set up a one-on-one with him, then contact him directly. And if you have any other questions, because I don't know about you guys, but this is a big talk. We covered a lot of ground. So what's going to happen is my mind is going to think about it tonight, right? And then tomorrow I'm going to have some questions. That's the way my mind works. So if that's how your mind works, let it simmer for a day. I like to use that. Let it simmer for a day and then come back and drop your questions in, because we are going to go back in and engage with you and answer any questions that you have. So Shawn, thank you so much. Thank you to all my connectors that tuned in to watch this Facebook Live show. I hope it served you well. And if you were inspired, there's some great nuggets here. Go ahead and share this with your network so we can inspire and encourage others. Thanks, everyone. Have a great night. Ciao.